Hello students, once again I welcome you all. In this class, I will continue with Tughlaq, scene 2. Yesterday we completed scene 1, in which the playwright has made us familiar with a couple of very important characters like Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Vishnu Prasad, who is actually the major character of our play named Aziz. Similarly, I talked about the court trial which was going on in the court of the Chief Justice of Delhi, and how this Vishnu Prasad, who is actually Aziz, won the case against Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his state. Now I am going to switch over to scene number 2. This scene number 2 takes place in one of the rooms of the palace of Sultan Muhammad. As soon as the curtain rises, we could see Muhammad bin Tughlaq in the focus. He is playing chess and trying to execute his plan. Of course, chess is a game and he was trying to execute his plan how to checkmate the counterpart. But here we need to understand that chess works as a symbol here. We know that Muhammad bin Tughlaq was surrounded by many political opponents, and wherever he decides that he is going to get rid of his political opponent, that is very technically and symbolically presented by the dramatist in the form of this particular game. When he is moving forward or marching forward with some of the pawns of the chess, and sometimes with the other pawns as well. So we could assume that all this is nothing but a kind of political strategy which was adopted by Muhammad bin Tughlaq to overcome his own political enemies. So now we could see on the stage in the beginning of the scene 2, you have Muhammad bin Tughlaq playing with the chessboard, and in the meantime his stepmother came into the chamber. As usual, Muhammad bin Tughlaq asked her the purpose of her unexpected visit. The stepmother says that she has come over here to inquire the different reasons of the uneasiness and anxiousness of Tughlaq. It indicates that she has come over here with a maternal feeling in order to inquire Tughlaq's health and why he is spending sleepless nights for the last many days. Tughlaq, as you know, is a very strategic person. Something or the other villainy is continuously going on in his mind. And when he also reveals that he is really anxious and uneasy because of the political affairs of the state, then he immediately said that I am spending my time to solve some of the problems of chess, the kind of problems which the noted great chess player of his contemporary time, Adil and Al-Suraki, could not solve. And now Tughlaq claims that he has successfully solved these problems which were unsolved by the noted players of chess. Actually, his stepmother was not at all interested in the game of chess. She advises him that he should really get in touch with Ain-ul-Mulk, who once upon a time was a very good friend of Sultan, but now in the course of time he turned into a rebel and enemy to Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Actually, these developments were of course not really healthy in the view of the state, in the view of Muhammad bin Tughlaq's tenure as a king, and he was also a little bit worried about it. As soon as he heard that statement from his stepmother, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was really surprised to know that how this lady is really totally involved into the political affairs of the state. If you remember, in scene 1 we discussed that Muhammad bin Tughlaq himself killed his father and brother, and he was very much involved in the melee in which he committed the scenes like fratricide and patricide. So all these facts are very well known to this lady, but still she was showing interest in the political affairs of the state. But in the meantime, they had a very good dialogue about the concerns of the state, and ultimately we come to know that Tughlaq was really very systematically handling the political affairs, and when he said that he has almost solved the problem of the state, that problem was directly related to Ain-ul-Mulk and his mutiny or the rebellion. He got the primary information that Ain-ul-Mulk is going to attack Delhi with around 30,000 soldiers. And unfortunately, presently, Muhammad bin Tughlaq had around 5,000 soldiers in order to protect Delhi. When you compare and contrast the political situation and the possible attack by Ain ul Mulk, politically and strategically, Ain ul Mulk seems to be very strong. But when Muhammad bin Tughlaq is claiming that he has solved a problem, a very difficult problem, which Adil and Al-Suraki, the noted chess players, could not solve, it means there is something which is going on in the mind of Muhammad bin Tughlaq to get rid of his political enemy, that is Ain ul Mulk. So, right in the beginning, his mother, that is stepmother, and he himself seems to be very worried about the political situations. The stepmother tells him that she is also very anxious to know why he is really passing out the sleepless nights, and trying to convinces him that he should really take care of his own health, and of course, if he has a good health, then only he could continue to look after the political affairs of the state. Subsequently, she also talks about the kind of administrative reforms which were introduced by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. As I told you, that he was so specific about Hindu-Muslim unity, brotherhood, and he has proclaimed that he will always be just towards his subject irrespective of their religious concerns. So this was all discussed between these two characters in the beginning of this scene. Stepmother passes a few sarcastic comments also about the ideals of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But as you know, the nature of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his very typical approach towards handling the political affairs. So he simply ignored whatever was said by the stepmother, and later Muhammad challenges her statement and says that they couldn't bear the weight of their crown, so they died in the old age and were murdered in the prime of life. Actually, his stepmother was trying to convince him that in the past, so many kings and queens, even that of Delhi Sultanate, tried their best to serve the people of the state, and of course he is also doing the same. In the response to this particular query and question put forward by the stepmother, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was defending himself that he was really different than others. So he did not like the idea of comparison of his tenure with the tenure of the other kings and queens in the pages of the history. So this was how the dialogue between the son and mother was continued for some time, and then there was a question posted by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and straight away he asks her whether she also believes in the rumor that he has killed his father and brothers. So this stepmother came into a very critical condition now. She had her own opinion and she knew the fact as well. But she was not in a position to take any stance. And the stance, if at all she would have taken, that she also believes the same, probably she would be the another victim of the tyranny of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. The person who did not even leave his own father and brother in order to achieve his political ambition, how could he really consider the stepmother in this regard? So that was all happening over there. And the dialogue between the two came to an end without a proper ending, I would say, because in between there is the entry of another character in the play, that is Muhammad Nazib. He is the vizier of the state, of course having a very strong administrative control over the system. And one more thing we need to remember about Muhammad Nazib, that he is the most confident person of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Whatever villainy, political strategy, political killings and what not, it was all manipulated by Nazib only. It means the kind of tyrannical nature that we could see in the character of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, that tyranny is executed through the character of Muhammad Nazib. So in nutshell, in critical point of view, we can say, if Muhammad bin Tughlaq had an idea, that idea was executed in the realistic point of view by Muhammad Nazib. So this character plays a very important role in this particular play. Along with him, one more character appears on the stage, whose name is Barani. Actually, Barani is an historian, and being a historian, he was supposed to take his notes for the day-to-day affairs of the political life of Muhammad Tughlaq. And all these entries were incorporated in his book by Barani. But he was not only the historian, he was also involved in the political affairs of the state, and time and again he used to give advice to Muhammad Tughlaq. Now you come back to the main track. The present political scenario is not that good for them. All are restless because Ain-ul-Mulk is about to attack Delhi, and there is a possibility of conflict and battle between the two. And immediately what happens? There is a dialogue between Nazib and Sultan, and he tells that he will not have more than 6,000 soldiers to fight against Ain-ul-Mulk. Already I told you in the beginning also, approximately 5,000 soldiers are there in order to protect Delhi from any kind of attack. Now Nazib is giving the clear picture that to the most he can add on another 1,000 soldiers over there, and he'll be having 6,000 soldiers to fight against Ain ul Mulk and his army of 30,000 soldiers. So, in the strategic point of view, Muhammad Tughlaq seems to be a weaker one, and Ain ul Mulk seems to be strengthened by his numbers and the army. Immediately, there was one more updation which was inducted in the discussion. That was about Sheikh Imamuddin, who has arrived to Delhi from Kanpur. Now you need to know about Sheikh Imamuddin. Sheikh Imamuddin is a man of religion. He is supposed to spread the message of Islam among the people and look after the expansion of Islam in this region. But instead of doing that job, this Sheikh Imamuddin got involved into the political affairs and started encouraging people against Muhammad Tughlaq, and he is trying to create the image of Tughlaq as anti-Muslim or anti-Islam. And he was quite successful also in his endeavors, and that's why Sheikh Imamuddin is considered to be the backbone of all the rebels which were taking place in Delhi Sultanate. When Muhammad talks about him, he also said that he had a solution for this problem, and as soon as Tughlaq came to know that Sheikh Imamuddin is going to deliver some of his speeches in Delhi also, so very spontaneously and willingly, Tughlaq said that I would like to listen to him, what exactly he speaks against me, and I will join his gathering. Actually, the idea was really very shocking and surprising to all over there. Najib also ironically points out that they will also get rid of him, but in his own style, and he can simply kill Sheikh Imamuddin at any moment of time, since he has already arrived in Delhi and there won't be any problem. But the strategy which was going on in the mind of Tughlaq was totally different. He did not like the idea of killing Sheikh Imamuddin directly, because that will be the another cause for the people to go against Tughlaq. Then Barani also adds on to this dialogue, and he tells Muhammad that the Sheikh is very much looks like Sultan. It means, in the appearance point of view, there is a close resemblance between Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Sheikh Imamuddin. Now you see, I would like to read out a couple of dialogues over here so that I'll be able to make a point clear. There is a dialogue said by Najib. I refer to the text. But another equally important problem has come up. Your Majesty, Sheikh Imamuddin is in Delhi. Muhammad: aha, then we should take his blessings before we leave. Najib: yes, Your Majesty, and get rid of him. Barani: what a terrible thing to say about a holy man like that. Muhammad: first he smiles to the stepmother, explaining. Najib is upset because the Sheikh criticizes him publicly, demands that I abdicate. The Sheikh thinks I am incompetent. Najib: it's worse than that. He has become a backbone of the rebels. As for what else he says, you may ask Barani. Muhammad: so you have heard him, Barani? What is he like? Is it true he looks like me? See now. From this dialogue, we came to know about a couple of things over here. Number one, Najib would like to get rid of Imam at the earliest. Barani is not of the opinion, because Barani thinks that Sheikh Imamuddin is a holy person, is a man of religion, and he should not be killed just like other political rivals, and he should be protected. And now, on the contrary, Muhammad Tughlaq has a different idea in mind, and he said that before going to the battle with Ain-ul-Mulk, it would be great if we could take the blessings of this holy man, and we should go to listen to his speeches. Then Barani adds on that Muhammad, that is Muhammad Tughlaq, you may definitely go to listen to him, no doubt. But mind it well, he talks against you. And if at all you are very much over there, and in your presence, if he is making so many allegations against you, and probably you may not like it. But still, Muhammad says that whatever it may be, I would really like to see this man. Number one, since you called him a holy man. Number two, he looks like me. I would like to see how much resemblance he has with me. And third, I would like to listen to him, because I heard his name for a number of times, and he has been the backbone of the mutiny or the rebel against me. So this dialogue is going to reveal all that. Now I proceed further. As you know that Tughlaq won't allow his opponents just go like that. Tughlaq is a man of determination. Even from the play you will come to know about it. And once he is determined and convinced with an idea that he is going to get rid of someone by hook or crook, he is going to kill the person. And probably if you turn the pages of the history, you will find the same fact in the respect of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Now you see here, as you know, Najib is a very dominating personality, having certain influence on the mind of Tughlaq also. Is of the opinion, is a very firm opinion, that a traitor should be done away with. It means whosoever is talking against king or against the state to be treated as a traitor, and he should be given a punishment. Now on their agenda you have two people or two characters. One, Ain-ul-Mulk, who is already there on the front with 30,000 army and ready to have a battle with Tughlaq. Okay, he is at least far away and outside over there on the borders. But the another political enemy, that is Sheikh Imamuddin, is very much here in Delhi itself. So the political enemy on the front and the political enemy inside the state, who is going to be more dangerous? So all these calculations were going on in the mind of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he decides that we should really handle this situation so tactfully, so that I should be able to hit two birds in one shot. Of course, these two birds are none other than Ain-ul-Mulk and Sheikh Imamuddin. So he had his own plan, and he was ready to execute that plan. And that's why he said right in the beginning, when he was interacting or talking with his stepmother, that I solved the biggest problem of chess, which could not be solved by the great players like Adil and Al-Suraki. Now we come to know towards the end of this scene that what was that problem. If at all you know how to really play chess, you will come to know that all the steps of the horse, elephant, camel, king, wazir and other pawns, they have their predetermined steps over there. That's the way that we can play it. But here, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was thinking on a different line. Why do I call it a different line? Because Najib has one opinion, Barani has the another opinion, and his stepmother has a third opinion. But the planning, the political planning which was going on in the mind of Tughlaq was really a very surprising thing for us. Because a common ordinary person cannot think on this line. So now his plan is quite predetermined in his mind now, and he was ready to execute that. Now the Sultan, towards the end of this scene, Sultan asked Najib to get the army ready in order to march towards Kannauj. Because Ain-ul-Mulk was ready with his army on the front. He is about nearby that region called Kannauj, and Najib has been given an instruction by Sultan ready in order to initiate with a battle with Ain-ul-Mulk. But now you need to know about Ain-ul-Mulk also. In fact, Ain-ul-Mulk may be a traitor today. He may be a rebel today. But once upon a time, he was appointed as a governor of Awadh by Tughlaq himself. And since he has done a good job, he was also going to be promoted, and Tughlaq wanted him to go to the Deccan Plateau and become the governor of Deccan. In fact, Ain-ul-Mulk did not like this idea. He thought that Tughlaq was trying to get rid of him, and that's the reason that he went against Tughlaq and became a rebel and announced a war against Tughlaq. So this is how is the entire scenario which is taking place in the background. Now in this scene, that is second scene towards the end, Tughlaq also says that he has invited Shamsuddin to look after the administrative affairs of Delhi in his absence. Actually, Barani does not like this, but once Sultan tells him that he wants to play this great game in his own way, and that's why he wanted Shihabuddin to look after the state administration in his absence. So this is how we are slowly leading towards the end of this scene. Muhammad and Najib, both of them go away. They leave the stage. You have the stepmother left with Barani. She talks of the great intelligence and diligence of the Sultan and his passing sleepless nights for people. She tells him that Muhammad is impulsive and needs an honest and level-headed friends like Barani. She also requests him not to leave the Sultan but to be always with him. She does not like Najib because Najib is a man who executes all villainous plans of Sultan. And she says that if he goes on like this, he is likely to meet a worse fate than that of a dog. And then Bharani is moved out with tears by her maternal care for the Sultan. But he does not know the villainy of the stepmother also. So this is how this scene comes to an end, and we could see that how the play is very slowly or gradually developing, and we are leading towards the climax. So that's all from my end as far as this scene is concerned. Maybe in my next class I'll be able to address scene 3 from Girish Karnad's Tughlaq. Thank you.